I have a question about heavy moisture condensation on the outside AC compressor. My previous experience is that the compressor is usually too hot to have any condensation. Do you think this means too much or too little Freon?
Hello and thank you for using this service. This is completely normal. When it is hot and the humidity is high, you will see quite a bit of condensation on the compressor. The cold Freon from the suction line helps to cool the compressor. This change in temp on the metal surface will make it sweat, especially given these hot and humid conditions. The suction line is cold and will cool that line to the compressor. Check the humidity levels outside, and if you have 80 to 100% humidity outside, you are going to have this. There is nothing to worry about, and actually it is a good sign as the compressor is being cooled correctly.
This was actually a trick question to see if you came up with the right answer determined elsewhere. I have had 2 previous AC compressors over 30 years and both were always too hot on the outside for any condensation to form on the compressor body. The only condensation was on the copper suction line. The compressor condensation on the current installation was so excessive that there was frequently standing water at the bottom of the unit. Furthermore, there was excessive and unusual condensation on the attic duct work that was causing ceiling damage. Finally, the AC tech determined that the plenum temperature drop was an unusually high 30 degrees instead of the normal 20 degrees. They determined that the circuit board was defective, ordered and replaced the board, and the plenum temperature drop was then normal and no condensation now appears at any time on the outside compressor, and the bottom is always dry. Could you please pass this question to one of the other AC experts who might be familiar with 2-stage compressors and this problem? Relist, inaccurate answer. This was actually a trick question that yielded a wrong answer. I have had 2 other AC units over 30 years and the compressor was always too hot for any condensation to form on the compressor body. The only outside condensation was on the copper suction line. With the current installation, there was so much condensation on the compressor frame that large pools of water formed on the floor of the outside unit. Furthermore, there was an unusual amount of condensation on attic duct work that caused a lot of ceiling damage. The AC tech finally determined that the plenum temperature drop was 30 degrees instead of the normal 20 degrees. The AC tech decided that the board was defective, replaced it, and now there is no compressor condensation and the excessive attic duct condensation has been solved. I have never seen condensation on the compressor since it was always warm to the touch. Do JustAnswer AC experts really believe condensation on a warm compressor is normal?
Hello, you are generally correct, and your past experience with the suction line sweating but not the compressor is the normal condition. If the entire compressor is sweating, then there is too much liquid refrigerant getting back to the compressor and evaporating in the compressor itself. That dilutes the oil and causes excessive bearing wear. And other problems that we can discuss further if you wish, such as liquid refrigerant slugging under certain conditions. A sweating compressor also results in the oil foaming, where it is picked up at the compressor suction port inside the hermetic compressor dot, and a greater quantity of oil circulating in the system. This reduces the heat exchange capacity of the evaporator coil primarily and runs up operating costs slightly. If a small area of the compressor sweats, say an inch around the suction line connection, that is generally acceptable, but not ideal. Only the suction line itself should sweat. And the superheat should be between 10 and 12 F taken at the compressor. And between 8 and 10 F taken at the evaporator coil. Superheat is the temperature of the suction line above the saturated evaporator coil temperature. So that if the coil is running at 34 F, the suction line should run at 42 to 44 F. That is done to ensure that all of the liquid refrigerant has evaporated before it gets back to the compressor. By the way, just to be clear, if the coil is running at 34 F and you have sufficient airflow, the air will come off of the coil 54 to 55 F with the house at 72 F. And warmer if the house is warmer. Your technician was correct about the 20 F drop across the coil being the correct range. A 30 F differential on a house running at 72 F will produce 42 F supply air, and run the ducts colder than the dew point in most environments, especially in humid environments, and cause the duct sweating and sealing damage. You report. Replacing the control board in a situation where you have a variable speed indoor blower will run the blower at the higher speed necessary, so that it moves sufficient air to keep the evaporator coil and suction line warmer. That will eliminate all those problems. That's if you have a variable speed indoor blower. Aside from these airflow issues, an overcharge of refrigerant will also cause excessive unevaporated refrigerant to get back to the compressor and cause it to sweat. Or an improperly adjusted expansion valve superheat setting. In this case, however, it seems you do have a variable speed blower, and a very sharp technician who resolved the issue by re-establishing the proper airflow. Let me know if you need any further elaboration. We can go from there.
Thanks for the correct answer. The first expert answer was wrong and he needs more training.
Edited by moderator. I miss on occasion myself. Thanks. Maria moderator 41162.95930.875.
If you have a home improvement or appliance question and want to chat with an expert now, visit justanswer.com/YTHI.